Hello, this is Christian. In this video, we'll be talking about nesting decision-making structures in PHP. So first, we want to look at the nesting if statements, nesting the switch statements, and nesting the if and switch statements. So the term nesting here really means, in the context of a computer program, a block of code that is inserted into another block of code. So there's a lot of nesting examples in computer programming, and you see a lot of those also in web development, especially in HTML documents. So let's go into the code editor and see some examples of these and how we can use nesting statements inside our switch and if statements. All right, so here in Unit Module 4, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call this one here nesting. Okay, so first of all, let me just go ahead and create another file here, the HTML, to show you just really briefly what it is. I'm referring to nesting. As you can see here, so you have a doc type HTML head tag. So inside the head tag, you have two other tags, the meta tag and the title tag. So these two tags are nested inside the head tag, right? So, and here you have the content title here is nested inside the title tag. So you can see you have this hierarchical structure of nesting elements or tags inside the all these elements here. And by the same token, you can do this inside a program as well. So let's go back to PHP here. So in the nesting file here, and so the first one we're going to look at is the nesting, the if statements. Okay, so if statements can be nested inside one another, and however deep you want, there's really no limitation to that. Although as deep as you go, it gets confusing, so it's not really a good choice to do that, but it can be done. So, for example, if I have a value, let's just say that, again, number is, let's just say it is number 6, okay? I want to check if, for example, if number 6 is, for example, greater than or equal to 0, okay? If so, then inside here, I can also want to check if number is a even number, right? So I can say if number modulus 2 is equal to 0. If that's the case, then it's an even number. So I can put out here another variable called message. I'll put here just blank message, and I can say message is equal to, I can say number, or you can just say number and then concatenate that with the extra number. Okay, and then concatenate that again is even. Okay, so you can put that, or is it even number? It doesn't matter. If this is the case, we can say here else. Then you can do the other one here, right? So you can say number, I'm going to copy this here and put it here. Number is odd. Okay, so you can see that I'm nesting the if and else if block or statements inside a single if statement. Okay, this is a nesting, an if else is else is. It's like a tongue twister there, inside the if block. Okay, so if I run this, very simple. And say PHP nesting, and you see that it prints nothing because what did I do it right? Yeah, it's correct because I didn't echo it out, so I should have echoed down here. Let's do it again. Echo the message. Okay, no, not this @ symbol. So if I do it again, if I type this correctly, okay, save that and clear screen, up arrow, and so there it is. Number 6 is even and is so both of these tests passed. Okay, if I put 5, then you get a odd instead of even. Okay, so I'm nesting two if statements inside another. Here again, I'm only using one if. I could have another one here, the else block here too. Right, and then inside here, if it's not even, if it's greater than 0, then that. What if it's what if this is false? That means it's a negative number, right? So I can still do the same thing. I can put that in here too if I want. Negative is so you can say number is Now what 6 is, you can say here, is even and maybe positive. So you can add that here, if that makes more sense. And then here we'll say a negative here. Okay. And whether it's a negative, even number or negative odd number. So I'm nesting two if else inside another if else, but you have this block inside the if block and this block of code inside the else block. Okay, and again, you can go as deep as you want. There's no limit. You can keep nesting inside the else if here, nesting inside the else. You can have like if else if else if and for and so on, and you will. There's no rule. There's no limit to that. So again, if I print it out, you see that 5 is indeed odd, and it's not even. So it should be odd and negative. Actually, odd and positive. Right? Sorry, odd and not positive. If I put minus 5, and then it should now be a negative because it is not true, and then it's not even, so it must be odd. So number 5 is odd and negative. Just the opposite of the other one, odd and negative. Here, odd is positive. Okay. So this is how you would nest inside another. So very simple, very straightforward, and just be careful because I mentioned in the other video that you have to make sure if you have multiple lines in your statement, you need to, close with the curly braces here. If you don't do that, you might have some unexpected result. Okay. And also it's a good idea to indent your code so it's nicely indented so you know that this one here aligns with this block of code. Because if you do this, if you don't indent your code, if you do like this, it's really confusing. As you can see, my IDE won't let me do it. If I do this, you see that it's very, very misleading. And if you may think that, it doesn't make sense because if it's here, then why is it else here? But then why is it else again? Okay. But really, this else here belongs to this if here. So just be careful when you do your code. Just for a good practice, make sure they are aligned and they have a closing match to closing brace to close the opening brace in every case. So once you open the curly brace, close it right away. Okay, so that is the if and else statement. Now the next one here is the switch statement. So let me just comment these out for now, and we can do something similar. So instead of these if, you can say switch. Switch here, I'm switching the number. So if you remember your switch statements, again, let me just collapse this. You can see the number is actually a -5. So you can do here case, 0, right? Then you can do like message is equal to maybe like 0. That's it, right? It's case, let's just say that case number is greater than 0. So you can do something like, I know this is not how you do it, but in this case, it makes sense. A number is greater than 0. If that's the case, you can say message is greater than 0, or just say positive, right? Positive. And how do we know if it's going to be even or not? So you have to nest that. So you can put a, so instead of, right, so message is positive. Instead of doing this, you can say, let me delete this first. If it's 0, then we know that that is 0. It's positive, but I want to check if it's odd or even. So here, then I'll put another switch case. Okay, so here it's just a number again. And you have the whole switch. So I put a switch inside another switch. Okay, so I'm checking here if it's so I'm not checking number. Actually, I'm doing like this. If number divided by 2 is equal to 0, you can do that here. You get true or false, right? So instead of doing say that divided by 2, and you can say here case if it's 0. Then you know that's even number. So you can say message is equal to is positive and even, right? And break that here. If it's not the case, then it must be a 1. So you can say case 1 if you want, like this. must be a positive number, but it's odd. So you can see that I did that here, case 1. Or you can see that, okay, there's only one case 0 or one case 1. So in this case, it must be one of the others. Therefore, you can say, oh, this is a default. Okay, so same thing. And it's got to be one or the other. Okay, so now if it's a greater than 0, you put that there. What if it's a less than 0? So that is the else part, right? So if this is the outer one, and I want to break that first, because this part here belongs to the outer case. This is the switch, but it's the inner case inside this case here. So if you collapse this, you see that this is just part of the case here. Okay, so if this is not the case, if it's not 0, if it's not greater than 0, it must be negative. So that is the case negative. So therefore this, and that's the only one you have, so you have the default. You can say default here, and default will be message is, well, actually before you even check that, you want to make sure if it's positive or negative, right? So same thing, and you would go back to this part here. So I'm just going to copy this and put it here. Okay, in case if it's default, then you want to switch it, put in a multi-line here, and if it's 2, then you can say positive. This is negative because it's a negative number, and even or negative, and odd. Okay, default, and you're done. So again, this is optional to break here because it's a default. You don't have to put it, but that's okay to put it there. So now if we run it, I should get the same result as before with the if statements up here. So -5 is not a 0, is not greater than 0. It is the default. It's going to be, I'm going to go down here, switch -5 divided by 2. I get a -1. Therefore, it's not a 0. So therefore, it must be negative, and it must be odd number, right? Okay, so if I save this and run it down a terminal, clear my screen, and I got a negative and odd number. Okay, if I put here an 8, so 8 is not 0, it's greater than 0, it's positive, it is divisible by 2, so therefore it's positive and even. So if I save this and run it again, you get it's positive and even. Okay, so this is how you would nest a switch case inside another switch case, and you can go on forever, right? As long as you have a statement here. Again, if I were to reformat this, you see again this would be like multi-line like this. Okay, so in here you can put a lot of statements in here if you want. All right, so that's the switch statements with the nested switch statements. Now you can mix the two, meaning the if and else and the case in here. So for example, if I switch the number here, and let me just copy this and I put it down here so it's not too confusing. So down here, I'll use the case down here. Okay, but when I check for the 0, this piece here, so instead of using the switch, I can say if. Okay, if number divisible by 2, if that's the case, then not a case, but then the message is going to be that, and then this would be the else, right? So else this block of code. So there's no break here because it's internal one. So the break here belongs to this. Inside I'm just using the if. Okay, so you can see I'm using a switch here, but inside the switch case I use an if inside here. So you can, you know, put a switch in here if you want, keep going, and you mix the two together. However you do it, that's completely fine, as long as one of these is nested fully inside of the other. Okay, I cannot have like half here and half outside of it. It doesn't make sense and it won't work. Okay, so here again, if I were to check this, I should get the same thing. I did not change the value. So the value was 8, so therefore the answer should still be positive and even. Okay, so let's go down to the terminal, clear my screen down here, and test again. You see that it's positive, and actually it's incorrect. Oh yeah, because I did not do it right here. So my condition was not correct. I did not check for a value. I should say, equal to 0. Okay. If it's equal to 0, then it's positive. Otherwise, it's negative. I mean, even odd. So in this case, always going to be odd. Save that again. Clear my screen down here and run one more time. You see that now it's positive and even. Okay, so that is how you would use the two to nest inside one another. And there's no rule, there's no limit to how many layers down you do. It's completely fine. Even though these are the switch and else if and else statements, if you recall, I probably did not cover well in the previous units, but in terms of function, you can do that as well. So I'm just doing it really quick here to show you about nesting. So let me close this for now. So inside a function, you can do that too. So if I have a function, x, and inside here I can do a function y. Inside here I can have function z. So you can see there's no limit to how far deep I go. Okay, and it's completely legal in PHP and most loosely typed languages like JavaScript and so on. So you cannot do this in Java. I'm pretty sure you can't do it. But you can have nested classes, which is completely off the chart here. So I'm just telling you that this is how you can do it. And it's completely legal here. This is a function that is nested inside the function y. So this is contained within here, therefore is hidden inside here. You cannot access from outside of it, only from internally. Okay. So if you want to use this, it's really tricky. So I'm not going to go into detail, but just show you that you can nest functions inside other functions as well. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know.